again, people. Man, New York Times hooked us up. Let me go to the Times video here so you can see where they posted it. Aware of injuries inside, Uvalde police waited to confront gunmen. So the New York slime, who I usually trash, is actually doing some good reporting against government that government's trying to hide. Evidently, they have police reports and statements and information that backs it up. So I'm going to go through this article. I got past the first two paragraphs and I was like, oh shit, they got some good stuff. Here we go. So I copied this to Google Docs so I could read it and kind of go through it and, you know, maybe highlight something, etc. when I was talking, because it makes it easier than doing it on the original article. But I didn't modify it, didn't change anything. If you want to go check the original article, I just copied it. All right, here we go. Heavily armed officers delayed confronting a gunman in Uvalde, Texas for more than an hour, even though supervisors at the scene, supervisors, not one, plural, supervisors at the scene had been told that some trapped with him. I don't know what the hell that means. Although an hour, supervisors at the scene had been told that some, there should be a were in there, were trapped with him in the elementary schools and needed medical attention. Okay? Sorry, I had to figure out what the hell I was reading there. It looks like some were trapped, I believe. That's what it should be. But anyway, I don't want to change the article. People be like, he changed it. That's the only change I made. Shut up. All right. 2 elementary schools. A new review of video footage. So they're citing their sources. They got video footage. Other investigative material shows. Instead, the documents show they waited for protective equipment to lower the risk to law enforcement. Tatum, go ahead. You can apologize in the comments. Don't apologize for me. Apologize because you've been a freaking bootlick, freaking changing your opinion, even with overwhelming evidence that you can admit that law enforcement officers were freaking cowards and lied. Right here, according to New York Times. Now look, New York Times could be lying. They're saying they have backup. They've lied before, but this is pretty damning that they would come out with this because they're normally pro-government because government is pushing the gun agenda. So for them to come out against government, maybe they're just attacking the cops. I don't care. I just want the truth. I don't really have a dog in this fight other than being an American, being a patriot, and don't want crooked politicians trying to subvert the Constitution with a backdoor way in to get guns from good people, because that's all they're doing. This is not a gun issue. This is a freaking school security and incompetency of government issue. Keep your eye on the ball. All right. Waited for equipment to lower the risk to officers. Wow. Wow. Who could have predicted that shit? Ray Charles saw that shit coming. All right? Believe me. The school district police chief, who was leading the response on May 24th, appeared to be agonizing over the length of time it was taking to secure shields that would help protect officers when they entered and to find a key to the classroom. Man, this is really written bad. According to law enforcement documents and video gathered as part of the investigation reviewed by the New York Times. So, it sounds like Tatum's freaking surrogate father was really agonizing over the time it took. Really, really agonizing. Good. Why didn't you freaking punks go in and do something? The chief, Pete Arredondo, and others at the scene became aware that not everyone inside the classroom was already dead. Holy shit. Wow. Shocking. I've been saying they had to know. There's no way they couldn't know. Too many agencies, too many radios, too much radio traffic, 911 calls are being dispatched. There was just no way they would know. Now, of course, Officer Tatum has the inside scoop, and he said they didn't know. Good job, Tate. Man, this article is going to piss Tate off. I wonder if he'll do a video on this article. The document showed, including a report from the school district police officer whose wife, a teacher, had spoken to him by phone from one of the classrooms to say she had been shot. More than a dozen of the 33 children, that's because 19 were killed, more than a dozen and 3 teachers originally in the 2 classrooms remained alive. So there was, what? There were 3 teachers and 3 teachers remained alive. So if 2 teachers were killed, that means there were 5 teachers in that room. 5! Wow. Wouldn't I like to get a good interview from them? They remained alive during the hour and 17 minutes from the time the shooting began in the classrooms. And when 4 officers made entry, law enforcement investigators have concluded. By the time 60 officers had assembled on the scene. By that time, 60 officers had assembled. Wow. Man, I have such a hard time. I know you guys crack on me for reading too fast and I can't read, but they write like freaking shit. They don't write like they're telling. They got to put in at the end who said what and at the beginning what. It's just the most stupid way, and for some reason, all the papers do it. Rick, you just don't like anybody. I don't like freaking crooked left-wing media. You're right. People are going to ask why we're taking so long. A man who investigators believe to be Chief Arndonner could be heard saying, oh, so he was worried about politics. He wasn't worried about the children. People are going to ask why we're taking so long. Wow. Wow. Chief, Tatum's hero, wasn't concerned about the children being killed and dying and bleeding out. He was concerned that people would ask why it was taking. Wow. Wow. The coward Pete, the Peterless Arredondo is becoming more of a coward as this article goes on. A man who investigators believe to be the chief could be heard saying, according to the transcripts of officers' body cam footage, we're trying to preserve the rest of the life. And then here's the image they put in there, whatever. Let's see. More than a dozen of the 33 and 3 children. Okay, I think that's just the credit. Okay, let's get back to the article here. Investigators have been working to determine whether any of those who died could have been saved if they received. Well, I'm going to take a swag right now. I guarantee you, if you let somebody shot bleed out for an hour and 17 minutes, there are some that could have been saved. You can call it a swag. Rick, you don't know what you're talking about. Rick, you're just making a wild-ass guess. I just said it was a swag. I'm telling you, somebody could have been saved when you let kids bleed, even teachers bleed for an hour. Matter of fact, one of the teachers died on the way to the hospital in the ambulance. She was alive. When the coward cops finally went in an hour and 20 minutes later, she was alive, and she died on the way. That right there tells you, had they went in earlier, she'd have been on the way to the hospital earlier, and maybe they could have gave her life-saving care. I'm not saying for sure, but it's just reasonable. Okay, according to officials with knowledge of the effort. But there are no question that some of the victims were still alive in desperate need of medical attention. No shit. 1 teacher died in the ambulance. 3, I didn't even know this. I haven't got this far in the article. This is new. I haven't read the article, people, so you're hearing what I'm hearing, and I'm sharing my thoughts as I'm reading this. 1 teacher died in an ambulance. 3 children died at nearby hospitals. Oh, I've never heard that. This is the first time I heard that 3 children died at the hospitals. Is that part of the 19, or is that in addition to the 19? That would be nice if we could have that information, according to the documents. Xavier Lopez, 10, was one of the children who died after being rushed to the hospital. His family said he had been shot in the back and lost a lot of blood as he waited medical attention. I guarantee you, if he was shot in the back and bled, I mean, if there was a lot of blood there, that means his heart was working. That means somebody could apply pressure and stop the bleeding. He could have been saved, his grandfather. I agree with you, grandfather. The police did not go in for more than an hour. He bled out. I agree. Why aren't we hearing this story? This is the first I've heard of this. I've been begging for people, why aren't we getting more information about this? They have the info. It's just being hid from us. Well, it's being hid from the rest of us. Tatum has an inside story, so it's not being hid from him. He knew all this. Okay, let's see. The police did not go in for an hour. He bled out. Survivors at the scene at some point became aware that there were people inside a classroom who needed saving. Supervisors at the scene at some point became aware. Now, they don't know how he did this. Maybe they'll get into it. We think there are some injured in there, the man believed to be Chief Arredondo. Oh, he said he didn't know. Remember? He already... Another lie. Shocking. I know Tatum's going to be like, what? He lied? No way. Okay. He said earlier, I didn't get any of the 911 calls, and I didn't know there were people alive because I didn't have a radio. Remember? Now we're hearing he did. We think there are still some injured. That's a statement they think he said. Wow, according to the transcript. As you know, what we did, we cleared off the rest of the building so we wouldn't have any more, besides what's already in there. Obviously, it was not clear from the transcript who he was speaking to. So it sounds like it was clear he was speaking. Which sounds like, if he's saying we cleared, sounds like he was in charge. Sounds like he's making decisions. Sounds like he was putting himself as being in charge. Wow. Wow. They lied. I can't believe it. The police and the government lied. Oh my God. And Tatum's source was wrong. I'm cracking on Tatum because they still haven't reached out to Mimi. He's texted me twice and I still haven't got a call saying, hey, let's schedule this. All right. Anyway, but even with additional documents and video, much of the chaotic scene remained unclear according to precisely what Chief Fonda and senior officers became aware of injuries inside the classroom. It is not known whether Chief and other officers inside the school learned of the 911 calls from the children in school who said that some had been shot and were still alive. Well, they may not know the call, but if he's making statements to somebody else, we think there's people alive in there. I mean, obviously they hollered out, is anybody okay? And a child answered, and he went over and shot that child. We heard that. So we had to know that somebody was alive at one point. Among the revelation of the documents, the gunman, Salvador Ramos, had a Hellfire trigger device meant to allow a semi-automatic to be fired more like an automatic weapon. Oh my God, here we go. So now we have to go after those mean triggers. Well, I'd like to see if he had one. And again, where did he buy that? That's another, what, $100, $200, $300? Some of those aftermarket triggers are $300, $400, $500. Where's the receipt for that? Where did you buy that? Who installed it? This guy just bought a gun at 18, and somehow we're to believe he had a bank account, he had a credit card. The day he turned 18, he bought an AR online with a credit card that he already had, even though he had just turned 18. And now he bought a trigger that somehow was installed. A guy who had no experience with guns, never owned an AR, suddenly he knows how to install a trigger. Man, I'm calling some big bullshit here. All right. Some of the officers who arrived at the school scene had long guns. Oh, no kidding? More firepower than previously known. I knew it from the jump street. I know damn well cops are not running into a building with shots fired without grabbing a long gun. I would have grabbed my long gun. I mean, it's just not reasonable that you would have a long gun and not run in. You had 19 officers. The school chief, he doesn't count because he threw his radio away because he didn't want the extra weight. But all the other officers, I guarantee you they had long guns. If it was either a shotgun or AR, there were long guns. But remember, we heard earlier, they were outgunned. I think Tatum said they were outgunned, and that's why they should have waited for... Man, Tatum's looking bad. This article, I think these people wrote this just to trash Tatum. That's not fair. Tate, I'm on your side, man, but I think they did this just to trash your video. All right, let's see. Chief Arnado learned the gunman's identity. So they had more firepower than previously known. I always thought they did, but it sounds like they're confirming it. And Chief Arnado learned the gunman's identity while inside the school and attempted in vain to communicate with him. So he was talking. He took the lead role as negotiator, has on-scene commander, and has, I don't have a radio because I threw him away because I wanted to be lightweight. Damn. He was like a 10-armed man in there. He was doing everything. Shit. He's a hero. But with two officers who initially approached the door, shot at and grazed, Chief Arnado appeared to have decided that quickly breaching the classroom without shields and other protection would have led to officers possibly being killed. So what? The fact that he made this decision means he's a coward. The fact that none of the 19 officers said that's bullshit, these kids are getting shot, we're going in, makes them cowards. Okay, that's what I'm basing. As soon as a cop that was there comes on here and tells me how I got it wrong, I'll be more than happy. But if Tate conveys from his inside information from another officer, I'm calling bullshit. All right? Would get officers killed, which means, as we always know, officers think their lives are more important than children and the pesky citizens and anybody. Wow. I wonder if Secret Service, if the president was being held hostage, if they'd go, hey, man, we can't go in there. We might get killed. I mean, that's, you know, they got the president and all, but shit, we might get killed. The Supreme Court said we don't have to act. Out freaking outrageous. Cowards! It's coming out clear they were cowards. He focused instead on getting other children out of the school while waiting. Yeah, what he did, that's what a coward does. Let's see. My buddies need help. They're getting shot. I've got a gun. I could help them. Let me go over here because I think these guys need help too, where it's safer. Okay? That's coward. That's what women do in police work. When there's a bad or shooting or something that's going on that's violent, they make a traffic stop and say, I can't respond. Show me out on this traffic stop. That's what you do. That's exactly what he did. I don't want to go in there and take a chance of getting hit and saving kids, so I will go save other children. Then later I'll have my attorney release a statement, and Tatum will back me up that I was a hero because I saved 500 kids. What a freaking weasel. Boy, this really makes Arredondo look like a freaking coward weasel big time. Okay, he focused instead on getting other children out while waiting for additional protective equipment. Oh, ain't that nice? Officer safety. Good job, Chief. He took care of us. All the police will be supporting him. Way to go, Chief. We got to look out for us first. Tatum will be right in his pocket. Perfect. The response by the police at Robb Elementary School is now subject to overlapping investigations by Texas State Police and Justice Department. Good. The problem is when you have overlapping investigations, that means there's a cooperation and we kind of agree and argue on how something will be worded. If there were two separate investigations, independent of each other, and then we were allowed to compare them, we could tell when one was lying. But when you do a cooperated effort, now it's harder to tell the lies. That's a mistake. That's bullshit. And again, that smells cover-up. I know people are going to blame me. Rick, you just don't like government. You're a conspiracy theorist. Whatever. I just like accountable government. I like transparency. I like where the pesky citizens that always want to say government works and reports to us, I like when we know what the hell's going on. Okay? Let's see. Overlapping investigations. It was subject to closed-door hearing at the state capitol on Thursday that featured the direct, closed-door hearing of state police, Steve McGraw. Steve McGraw is the colonel that gave the briefing that I thought was trying to be honest, but he didn't want to throw him on the bus, and then finally he did throw him on the bus, said it was the wrong decision. But he soft-shoot it way too much for me. But they had a closed, how many of y'all heard about the closed hearing? It's closed. You shouldn't need it. Pesky citizens don't need to know. This is where we get our lies together. This is where we decide what the public should know. This is where we hide shit that makes us look bad and incompetent. And this is where we promote the narrative that guns are bad and it's the gun's fault. That's what happens in closed door. Remember, freedom dies in darkness. Anytime you give government the ability to have secret hearings, secret courts, secret warrants, secret closed-door hearings, you're not getting the truth. If you were, there would be no reason for them to be secret. What are they discussing on there? National security? What are they're discussing something that if we knew we would somehow be able to make the government of the United States fail? Of course not. They're covering their ass. It's bullshit. Okay, Steve McGraw, but details of what took place inside the school have been slow to emerge. No shit, they're trying to cover their ass. They're trying to do damage control. Aspects, and see, the more time they wait, the more people will lose focus. That's why I'm getting complaints that, man, you're still covering this, let it go, it's over, it's a false flag. I ain't letting it go. This is the biggest failure, maybe the biggest failure. I mean, this is going to be one of the biggest cover. Waco, at least we had footage, and we know they went in and killed all the kids, and they started the fire, and it was their fault, and it was a huge disaster. We know that Waco, that was a huge failure, and Ruby Ridge was a failure. FBI shot a kid, shot their dog. We know that government is always incompetent, but government knows that if we drag it out, and the longer we put out bits and pieces of conflicting information, the pesky citizens will lose interest, get confused. They won't believe anything, but they won't do anything either. That's the problem. Let's see where we're at here. McGraw, Abbott amended and completely retracted. The official narrative has switched from a story of swift response by the local police to one of hesitation and delay that deviated from 2 decades of training. Good for the New York Times. You go. Whoever wrote this. 2 decades. 20 years of training. When you have an active shooter, you don't help people. You don't evacuate. You don't give aid. You go and attack the shooter. Shooters kill until they're killed. We already know that. So that's the priority. Nothing else matters. And these cops waited for 1 hour and 17 minutes. Meanwhile, Tatum's carrying a flag saying, oh, it was very dangerous, and they tried to do everything. They saved everybody else, and he threw his radio away. It was a good tactical move. And are you freaking kidding me? Man, this is going to piss Tatum off. Poor Tate. He's going to look like more of an idiot. All right, here we go. I didn't want to call him an idiot because I was being respectful up to now, but in the comment, and I'll slide in a little thing, he told me I was delusional. So, I mean, he wants to come on. He's asked me twice to put him on live, and then he never followed up. And now his first comment to me is, now you're delusional. Well, how is that to open a conversation to where, hey, dude, we disagree. I think you're wrong here. Here's why I think you're wrong. Now you tell me why you think I'm wrong and what information you have that leads you to believe your way. That's how you have an adult, fair conversation. If we're both believing and honest in what we believe, let's have it out. It doesn't look like it's going to go that way, but we'll see. Let's see. Sim McGraw had been amended, completely retractive. 2 decades of training that instructs officers quickly confront the gunman to save lives, even at risk of their own. No shit. Okay, another image they slid in there. Another image. Let's see. Now, more than 2 weeks later, after gunman killed 19 children, 2 kids, or 2 teachers, a clearer picture of the timeline of events. Good. That's what we've been wanting. A police response has emerged according to the Times review of law enforcement documents and video gathered as part of the investigation into the shooting. A cascade of failures, that's a good term, I like that, took place at the school. The local police radio system, later tests showed, did not function properly inside the building. Oh, so they've done a test, which is good. At least it tells me they're doing something. Unfortunately, we don't know all the tests they're doing. Remember, I turned in the DA because we did a test that hurt his case, and he told us to hide the test, and we said no. And that's why, and this was a death penalty case. This is what government does. We do tests, but we only give you the test and the results of the ones that help us. So now it looks like they did a test. Does the radio work in here? Since the radio didn't work, now we're going to hear about the test proved that Chief was right. Had the radio worked, and I don't believe that all radios didn't work, they may have found one radio that didn't work. Maybe the school districts didn't work. Maybe they were cheap. Maybe he bought himself a new car instead of buying new radios for his people. We'll never know any of that. But evidently they found one radio that didn't work inside. The local school system functioned properly, quickly loaded. Later tests showed did not function properly inside the school. Classroom doors could not be quickly locked in an emergency. Could not be quickly locked? What do you mean they couldn't be quickly locked? Wow. After the initial burst, I would have loved for them to put in some pictures of a classroom door to back up, etc., instead of just dramatic pictures of flowers and you know, funerals. Let's see. No police officer went near the door again for more than 40 minutes, instead hanging back at a distance in a hallway. I knew that happened. I said that happened on many videos that I've done. Without a doubt, I said there's no freaking way. Once they took fire, they ran. When they retreated, nobody went back to that damn door. I still want to know, and I hope they cover whether there was a window on the door that the guy shot through to gain entry, but yet the cops didn't shoot through. But anyway, I'm back to my... This is pretty much confirming everything that I was speculating on, but it was it was a hypothesis based on my training and experience and been on a lot of these calls. I can tell kind of what's going on, even though they're trying to filter it and give out bullshit. Okay? I'm not saying I'm super smart and I'm Mr. Great and I know everything. It's just when you're inside a job, you know when someone else in the job is trying to bullshit you. And that's what they were doing. And they obviously bullshitted Tatum, or he just doesn't care about the truth. He wants to push his narrative. According to the documents, Chief Armando, who earlier focused on evacuating, there we go, began to discuss breaching the classroom where the gunman was holed up for about an hour after the gunfire started. Man, you start discussing that an hour later. Are you kidding me? He did so after several shots could be heard inside the classroom after a long lull, meaning he was walking around shooting unarmed kids, and they're outside waiting for shields, waiting. They're being brave out in the hallway. They're evacuating. They're being heroes. They're evacuating. Those 19 officers didn't evacuate. They held there as a QRT or QRT, quick response team, quick response QRF, whatever you want to call it. They wanted to be a quick response in case he tried to exit that room. They were holding that hallway and that doorway. In their mind, they were keeping him from going somewhere else. And I think they were. That just wasn't their job, and that's not what they were supposed to be. They were supposed to be getting in there and protecting helpless kids from getting killed. That's what they were supposed to be doing. But they were doing something else that was safe while waiting for shields. Pussies! Cowards! All right. Let's see. But he wanted to wait and find a key first. So he wanted to find a key. Again, showing that he was in charge. But he said he wasn't in charge, Rick, and Tatum believes him. We're ready to breach, but the door is locked. Oh my God. He said according to the transcripts at 12. So if they're saying they got transcripts, I'm thinking this is radio traffic. They did mention transcripts of a body cam, which means there may not be releasing the body cam because they don't want us to see the pictures of their bullshit. They're only releasing transcripts. This is a new trend that law enforcement has started. I did a video not too long ago. They're going to come out where the video footage is too graphic and we want to protect you. And to keep you safe, we're only going to release a transcript. Transcripts are not the same. Has inflection, voice, is it a command, who's he talking to, how's he talking. It takes away from it. A transcript is never the same as seeing the actual footage with the audio or footage with the audio. But government, more and more, you watch, it's going to become normal. We're never going to get video footage or body cam. We're only going to get transcripts to protect us. It's protecting government. By that point, officers in and around the school had begun growing increasingly impatient. No shit. There were probably some meat eaters going, what the fuck's going on? Why aren't they breached? Why is this guy still in there shooting? Because every officer knows that when a shooter is shooting, every cop's job is to get in there and stop him. So all the cops that were arresting parents and tasing parents and handcuffing parents and pepper spraying parents, those guys are all pussies too, because their job, according to 2 decades of training, is you go after the shooter as long as he's shooting. And they didn't. They're all cowards. Rick, they didn't know. It's not fair. Whatever. Bunch of freaking pussies. All right. Let's see. Growing impatient, loud voices of concern. If there's kids in there, we need to go in. Good. Who was this meat eater? I want to know who this guy was. He was the one making sense. Who the hell was holding him back? One officer could be heard saying. So this is either in a body cam or over the radio. According to documents, another responded, whoever is in charge will determine that. Oh, here we go. Here we go. This is Tatum's buddy. He's like, no, we don't go in. And we got to listen to the guy in charge. If the guy in charge says we don't go in, we don't go in. Fuck the guy in charge. There's kids getting killed. Are you kidding me? I can't. This article is trashing the cops. Good. A team made up of specially trained Border Patrol agents and a sheriff's deputy finally went in after the gunman and killed him at 12:50. I still don't know if that's true. The team entered not over the objection of Chief Arredondo. The team entered not over the objection. I don't understand what the hell that means. Does that mean Chief didn't say don't go in? But earlier he said don't go in because it sounds like he didn't want to go in without test. Not over the objections. That sounds like a cover your ass, help the chief not look bad. But apparently not fully aware that he had given the go-ahead after holding officers back for more than an hour. Also now he gave the overhead, but they didn't know it. So it sounds like they went in over the objections of him, but they're saying not over. According to a person briefed on the team's response by a federal agent involved in a tactical effort, amid the confusion, it's always confusion, and frustration in the hallway, the agent believed that the team was taking the initiative on its own to go into the classrooms, meaning over the objection of Chief Arredondo. The lack of clear orders underscored the chaos and no shit. Hey, lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way. If you're not going to lead, then get behind me. If you're not going to get behind me, then stay the fuck out of my way. That's an old military saying, don't be a freaking bullshit, I can't make a decision pussy. You either lead, or you follow the person who wants to lead, or you stay the hell out of the way. All right? The lack of clear orders underscored, okay, the delay in police response is part of a series of apparent failures in security that initially allowed the gunman to gain access. No shit. School's classroom and inside a classroom. So he didn't just get access to the school. That was the first failure. He got access to classrooms after they heard shots, after a teacher called 911. Multiple failures. Investigators found not only did the exterior door, though which the gunman entered, failed to lock. Yeah. Doesn't say failed to lock because of a rock, because it was propped open. They're just saying failed to lock. But most of the school interior doors, including those on the classrooms, could not be immediately locked in the event. Really? We just found that out? You did all these exercises. You did 2 exercises in the last 2 years of an active shooter at that school. And nobody determined that we need a master key, the doors don't lock, and our radios don't work. What the hell was the exercise? The purpose of an exercise is to identify deficiencies or problems so we can fix it so when it actually happens, we can give a better response. What the hell did they do in the exercise? Oh my God. Let's see. What do we got here? Has most of the officers arrived with radios that did not function well inside the school buildings, according to an investigator's review, potentially creating communication difficulties. Oh, whatever. The system installed 2 decades ago has been designed for an expansive terrain in and around the Uvalde town of 1500, surrounded by ranches. What the hell does that have to do with anything? Emergency management. The system was designed because prevailing conditions at the time to allow officers to respond to emergency and to communicate with dispatchers who might be 30 to 75 miles away. Well, wait a minute. There was a mom who drove 40 miles and was able to go in and get her kids out after the cops handcuffed her and let her go. So the response is kind of bullshit. They had plenty of cops. This is not a response issue. They had plenty of cops. This is a lack of balls and lack of action issue. In the wake of the shooting, investigators tested their radios carried by Uvalde, as well as Chief Arnold school police. He didn't carry his radio and found they did not transmit. Well, maybe his didn't transmit because he threw them on the freaking ground as he ran in. Did not transmit effectively. Didn't say they didn't transmit. They didn't transmit effectively. That's different. If they didn't work at all, that's one thing. But effectively means they might have had static. They might have cut out. So what? Inside the classroom, only the radios carried by Border Patrol agents appeared to function well in the review. Wow. Chief Arndondo, that's a plug right there that we need more money to get better radios. Even though the chief is going to throw his away anyway, he still needs a better radio that works. Chief Arndondo arrived at the scene without delay, without any radio at all, and used his cell phone. Well, wait a minute. Did he arrive with no radio, or did he throw it because he didn't want to get hit? Because according to his statement, he threw it. Everybody, and I was initially thinking, he forgot his freaking radio because it was emergency. I get it. He panicked, shots fired, shooting, kids in danger, I'm hauling ass. Shit, I didn't grab my radio. Fuck it, I'll go without it. I could have accepted that. He's saying he threw it because he didn't want to have the extra weight and it didn't want to bang on him when he ran with his blinding speed. Chief Arndondo did not respond to several requests for comment. Oh, so he didn't respond because he knows he's looking like a coward and he didn't want to give conflicting statements, so he gave his lawyer a statement, and now his lawyer told him don't give anything else because we don't want to conflict what we already lied about. Perfect. In an interview published Thursday, Texas Marine Chief Arndondo, whose department jurisdiction never considered himself the commander and assumed someone else taking control. I didn't issue any orders, he said. He said without a radio, he was unaware of the 911 calls in the classroom that none of the other officers in the hallway had relayed to him, so it was their fault. It was all the other officers' fault. The chief of Uvalde, Daniel Rodriguez, did not respond for comment. Oh, so he's being quiet too. He's just as guilty because his cops freaking screwed up too. Chief Rodriguez was on vacation when the shooting happened, man. He was like, man, I couldn't have been luckier to be out of here for this shit show. Was not present at the school. The city's mayor said at a public meeting. At a news conference on Thursday, Uvalde Consolidated Independent District Superintendent Hal Hall said the district was in the process of developing their government's always in the process of getting better. They're always working on something. They're always spending our money. They're always wasting our money. And they're always saying we need more people so we can spend more money. That's not a problem. Government's never had a problem with that. Processes of developing a list of actions we can take into strengthen security for our campuses. Yeah, great. Well, taking guns away from good people isn't one of your actions, okay? Nimrods who are calling and blaming a gun, you freaking idiots. He said that he would include hiring additional school police officers. Here we go. More people. That would fix it. Even though the ones you had there were incompetent, didn't go in, we'll just hire more. Perfect. See, that is the absolute worst thing you can do. That's what I'm always complaining about. We don't hold cops accountable for what they're trained to do. They can do nothing, and the answer is always we need more cops. So we don't hold more cops accountable, and we spend more taxpayer money. Perfect. Wonderful solution. I want to honor the families, love, and commitment, move forward. The investigative documents provided additional details about the gunman and the weaponry he required. Before ending school, he had amassed an arsenal of weapons to include 2 AR-15s. We only seen one receipt. And accessories and hundreds of rounds, according to the documents. Well, okay, great. I want to see those documents. He spent more than $6,000. I think that was my estimate when I did a video that I just kind of added shit up. I think I was close to either 6 or 7 grand, 8 grand. I can't remember. They're saying now, according to the document, he spent over 6 grand. Where did a guy working at Wendy's get 6 grand? How did he get a bank account on the exact day he turned 18? Because he bought the gun on his birthday on the 18th, and somehow he had a bank account and a bank card or a credit card that freaking worked. Amazing. Somehow, he put in a new trigger system on a gun that he never owned before and he just bought. Somehow, he bought 2 guns and a pistol, which they aren't saying how he got, where he got it. He's not allowed to have a pistol. He can't buy a pistol legally. How did he get the pistol and where did it come from? But somehow, when he bought these 2 guns that he had no experience with, he went in a week or 2 later and was an expert marksman and killed everything in sight and was able to hold the cops off for an hour and a half. Man, there are a lot of questions. I want to see the report. That's all I want. I really do. Mr. Ramos, 18, who dropped out of high school last year in the fall of his senior year, made the purchases legally. He can't legally purchase a gun. He can't. Using money he appeared to have earned working at Wendy's and occasionally doing air conditioner work with his grandfather. Grandfather gave the money. Now we know grandfather gave the money. He didn't want to say he gave him money. He said, I paid him for working with me. Grandfather's guilty. Remember, grandfather is a felon. He's not allowed to have a gun in the house. Everybody's saying, well, the grandfather said he wouldn't allow guns in the house. He's a felon. He can't have them in there. He's got to say that. If he says I allowed him to have guns and I bought a pistol and he used my pistol and one of the ARs was mine, then he commits a crime and he admits to it. Grandfather's not that stupid. He's stupid, but he's not that stupid. Let's see here. What's next? Among the purchases was a Hellfire trigger device. Oh, we got proof that he purchased that. Wow, who installed it? It was discovered inside one of the classrooms. But the gunman did not appear to have succeeded in using it during attack. Oh! So he didn't use it. So we're saying he fired all these rounds because of this mean trigger, and now he didn't use it. Shocking. According to analysis by the Federal Bureau of Alcohol and Firearms, the ATF, the 3-letter freaking communist agency, after the gunman entered the school, surveillance footage, so we have footage, showed him walking through nearly empty blue and green hallways decorated with uplifting messages and a few balloons. He did not appear to fire until he got in room 111. That's conflicting because we were told the cops had to walk over dead bodies and blood everywhere. Remember that? That was in one of my reports. I got this on a playlist. I'm making a complete list of everything I'm saying, everything they're putting out because I know this is going to happen. Somebody said cops had to walk over dead bodies and blood everywhere, meaning he was shooting people everywhere before he got to the rooms. Now that's not true, according to this. More conflicting data. It is not clear why he stopped there. I know, because the freaking doors weren't closed. That's why. He had been a student at the school as a child, and his time there may have overlapped at least one of the teachers, Garcia, who taught in room 112. According to the documents, on the day of the shooting, his cousin was in the classroom across the hall. Wow, his cousin was there. We didn't hear that yet. Chief Arandano was among the first officers after the school and approached the classrooms where the gunman was. 2 Uvalde Police Department officers, a lieutenant and a sergeant. We had lots of ranking there. We had a chief, a lieutenant, and a sergeant. And everybody's saying, I didn't know who was in charge. Wow, more government incompetence. Man, I wonder what Tatum's inside source says about that. Who shot and suffered grazing wounds after they tried. Oh, it says they shot. Oh, who were shot and suffered grazing wounds. Well, that's because they probably weren't behind cover and they weren't returning fire. If they were returning fire, that pussy coward would have been hiding because that's what cowards do that want to go kill unarmed kids. They don't want to confront the cops. Peered through a window. Oh, wait, here we go. Suffered grazing wound after they tried to peer through a window in one of the classroom's doors. So now we've got, finally, we've got confirmation. The door had a window. And they tried once and they never tried again. I mean, you could get 3 or 4 guns through a window. You could have a mirror and mirror that window and see where the guy's at and said he's over there. Everybody put a gun through here and shoot in this direction. I mean, this isn't rocket science, people. People could have done, even if they were getting shot at, they could keep making noise on that door to make him use up ammo and keep him shooting at the door so he wasn't shooting at the kid. Rick, that's not very safe. And they didn't have, and the chief said he was worried about safety and they had to wait for shields. And if we just had more money, they would have had shields and then they would have done that. Bullshit. They're freaking cowards. Classroom door. The surveillance footage showed, oh, we got surveillance footage of them running away. Oh, they're not going to release that. We got some footage of the pussy cops getting shot at and ran away and how they hid and did nothing for 2 hours or hour and 20 minutes. The entire group of officers who arrived sought cover down a hallway. Good, because they want to protect themselves. That's good officer safety. They hid in the hallway with guns, long guns. They weren't outgunned like Tatum said. They had long guns. They didn't have to wait. And they waited while kids were getting slaughtered. Perfect. No one would approach the classroom doors again. Never. Are you kidding me? 19 guys never approached them. Rick, they were busy. They were saving 500 kids. Bullshit. There were officers everywhere outside getting the kids who were saving themselves out the windows. No one would approach. The video showed for more than 40 minutes, though well-armed officers began quickly arriving. Cowards! 15 children had come to the classroom room 11 on Tuesday, according to documents, along with one teacher, Reyes. Was Reyes the teacher that was freaking full of shit that I tore apart his statement? 11 of the children died in the shooting. 3 were uninjured. Never heard one thing about an uninjured child. First time I'm hearing. There were actually kids in there that were not injured. The way we were being heard, he sprayed the room with 100 rounds, almost killed everybody. It was just lucky somebody got out alive. The teacher lived, and we have 3 uninjured kids. I'm not saying this to be like making this a good situation. I'm just saying full transparency. We should have known this. We should have been known that, hey, 3 kids got out of there uninjured. 3 kids died on the way to the hospital. A teacher died. We're not getting anything. New York Times is sharing a lot of shit, and it's going to make it harder for government to hide. That's what a press is supposed to do. A free press is supposed to hold government accountable and catch government hiding and lying from the people. They're supposed to represent the people against the government, because governments try to become tyrannical when they have a press that works for them and they control the information, like they're controlling this with secret closed-door hearings. Man, this is getting good. I love it when I'm right. Man, I'm not right too often, but man, it feels good when I'm right. In room 112, which is connected initially by a thin blue door, there were 18 students and 2 teachers, Miss Garcia and the teacher who had called her husband after being shot. 9 children were wounded but survived. So there were 9 in that room that survived. Wow. I'm kind of surprised, to be honest, because when you give a guy an hour and 17 minutes alone in a school, he could have killed everybody with a freaking butter knife. He could have sawed through their neck with a butter knife in an hour and 17 minutes. I mean, it's just crazy that anybody lived at all with the incompetence of government. Husband Ruben Reyes worked with Chief Arndemo, one of the 6 uniformed members of the Uvalde School District, had rushed to the school, and it is now clear from the documents that he informed the responders on scene that his wife was still alive in one of the classrooms. Boom. So now we have evidence. We have a police officer who suddenly don't care about the blue line, who suddenly doesn't care because his wife was in there. He told him, hey, my wife's in there. Oh, that changes everything. Guess what? The code blue cowards still didn't do nothing. They don't care about your wife, and they don't care about you if you're code blue. You are either a pesky citizen who is not in charge of a scene, or you're nothing. Period. So this blue line and all these officers that think all cops are our friend, wait, back the blue till it happens to you. Back the blue until your kids are dead too. That should be the new motto. All right. It's now clear from a document he informed the responders. She says she is shot. Officer Ruiz could be heard telling the other officers he arrived inside the school at 11, according to the body cam. Oh, so we got body cam transcript where he's saying this. That message appeared to have reached the sergeant from Uvalde. Why didn't he tell his lieutenant? Why didn't he check? It was who was near Chief Arredondo inside the school. Oh, who was near? See, they're not saying he acknowledged it, because when you're in close proximity and information is getting out, you don't have to acknowledge it. If I'm on a radio and me and the chief and me and my partners looking at each other and we're listening to the radio, because that's what normally happens, is radio traffic, we're both listening, and they say, hey, FYI, we got an officer in the back of the room. Me and my partner look at each other, acknowledge it without saying a word, and we move on. That's what happened. The chief knew. The sergeant didn't have to tell him, hey, did you hear that? The chief was listening because he didn't have a radio. It's obvious that he was probably listening to someone else's radio. All right, I could be wrong, but that's what my training experience will say. There's a teacher shot in there. An officer could be heard telling the sergeant, according to the transcripts. I know, the sergeant replied. So one officer yells, there's someone alive in there. We're out here in the hallway hiding like cowards. And the sergeant says, I know. And the chief is next to the sergeant. Gee, man, I thought Tatum said they were all heroes, and the chief gave an honest statement. It appears the chief is lying pretty dramatically. Okay, by that time, heavily armed tactical officers had arrived, along with protective shields. Dun, 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 dun. The police came in with their shields. Chief Arredondo at that point signaled his support for going into the room. How did he signal? What's this signal shit? Did he say go? Did he say go for it? Did he acknowledge? Why would he have to signal anything if he wasn't in charge? Why would he have to signal or say anything if he wasn't in charge? Bullshit with a capital BS. All right? Let's see. But began asking repeatedly for keys that would work on the door. So he didn't ask for keys until they got there, which again would imply he was standing down and waiting for people to come in because he wanted a key before they went in. And once they got there, now let's worry about the key. His main priority was officer safety. Cowards! All of them! Tatum! You're full of shit! You're delusional! You called me delusional. I'm going to call you delusional. Around that time, an officer also informed Chief Arredondo of the gunman's name, Mr. Ramos. Wow. Can you hear us, Mr. Ramos? Please respond, the chief said. The chief's an idiot. You're trying to negotiate with a guy who's killing unarmed kids. Are you kidding me? You're a freaking idiot. According to the Chief Arredondo tried English and Spanish. Wow. Mr. Ramos gave no answer. No shit. He was busy killing kids because he knew a bunch of coward cops were out there that weren't coming in. During that time, a large contingent of Border Patrol agents with long guns and shields massed near the door. So not only were they there, they massed and took time and talked and waited for a key. So this story that as soon as they showed up, they just went in blindly is bullshit. They waited. They waited. More time. Kids are bleeding out and dying. According to the transcripts of body cam, Chief Arredondo could be heard speaking on the phone, preparing for a breach and asking for someone to look into the windows of one of the classrooms to see if they could see anything. What windows? The rear windows? Because if they were going in the door, they can see through the door, which implies there were rear windows. Why didn't they enter there earlier? Why didn't they shoot there? Why didn't they break them out and distract the shooter? Why didn't they make an entry through there if the door was barricaded? If their intent was to be heroes and brave and get into the room, but those magic metal doors that the school has couldn't be breached, why didn't they go through the windows if they were brave and wanted to get in the room? Bullshit. It's all bullshit, people. I'm telling you, none of these guys would last a minute on an interview with me trying to sell this bullshit. Out freaking rageous. At 12:46, he gave the approval. Who? By 12:46, he. So we're talking about Chief in the previous thing, and now it says he gave approval. If he wasn't in charge, how could he give approval? Why did they need his approval? Why would somebody not in charge have to give approval? Bullshit. If you're all ready to go, you do it, he said. Oh, sounds like approval to me. Minutes later, the team went in. Mr. Ramos was in a corner near a closet, room 111, facing the doorway. Body cam footage showed. He exchanged fire. Also, he did shoot at the officers, according to body cam. Good. He exchanged fire with the officers as they entered. A bullet grazed a Border Patrol agent who was near the door. One of the bullets appeared to have struck the gunman in the head, killing him. Good job. Perfect. He should have been dead. He should have been shot in the head multiple times. I don't care. See, I'm not going to come here and say the cops fired too many rounds. They went in too hard. They should have waited. That's not what you do on these calls. There's other calls where that would apply. This is not the call. You go in and you kill him. They should have done this as soon as they had 2 or 3 officers there. One guy, one gun, a bunch of helpless kids, 3 or 4 officers, even if they only had pistols. Massive fire, massive angles, multiple targets. He can't get you all. Let's go in and stop this piece of shit. Freaking cowards! Rick, why do you keep calling them cowards? They're brave and they're heroes and we should respect them. Shut up, freaking crazy brainwashed people. All right, one of the bullets here to cut. Across the room, bodies of the children lay unmoving mass according to the documents. Obviously, it wasn't according to the body cam footage because they saw the guy get shot. A similar cluster body lay in 112. Officers could be seen in the video footage rushing a few children out of the room and carrying out Mrs. Miles, who appeared to be in extreme pain. She reached an ambulance but died before reaching the hospital. Inside school, officers scrambled to carry and drag limp bodies of children, some with severe gunshot wounds to their heads, to the triage. I didn't hear anything about there were headless bodies and armless bodies because that mean AR supposedly decapitated a couple kids and shot all the arms and legs and complete body off of one child because they had to use the shoes to identify the body. I didn't hear any of that. From a time the fourth graders' bodies lay where they had been taken, contorted with blood-streaked linoleum under the large, colorful banner, class of 2022, congrats. And that's the end of the article. Pretty good article. I still have numerous questions. I'm thankful to the New York Slime for getting this out. I'm kind of surprised that they said anything against their bankroll government, but this guy obviously did some pretty good reporting. I still want all the documents. To me, a good news agency puts links to documents they use. If they've got a search warrant, there should be a link to it. If they've got a police report, there should be a link to it. If they have transcripts, there should be a link to it. Why aren't they linking all this? Because they get to pick and choose on what fits their agenda. This one still doesn't give me enough answers to show the complete incompetence of the day of this response. Okay? I'll keep giving you updates as more information comes out. This is a great article, and we'll end that there. Man, I can't wait for Tatum's response to this article. My source... Hang on, I'm going to give you Tatum. You don't have to go watch Tatum's video. I'm going to be Tatum. My source said that New York Times video was all fake. Man, Arredondo, his statement was correct, and the cops did a great job, and they didn't wait, and they saved 500 kids. Okay? Thanks a lot. This is Officer Tate. I'm out!